Good morning, everyone. This is Denise Broom, and I work in the Production Support Office, CAD. Um, that sounds funny still. This week, we are going to be beginning a traffic plan series. It covers the FDOT Traffic Plans course. This course is comprised of three different manuals or three different parts. We've got signing and pavement markings, we have signalization, and we also have lighting. And currently, there's still going to be three separate courses, so that if you only wanted to take just one, that would be fine. But we are combining three manuals into one manual that can be used for all three courses. As you go through and listen to our webinars, especially the ones that are related to the different courses that we provide, you download the data set as well as the manuals and follow along. Chapter 1, it's been updated, and if you guys are one of the ones that want to follow along, if you look on your GoToWebinar dialog, you're going to see down here there's a section for handouts. If you go to there, you can get the PDF of the chapters as we go. It's now going to be 11 chapters in that course. And we're going to take all of those chapters and combine them together and have them posted once we get all of it finished. So it's kind of a work in progress at this moment. We decided to combine them because out of the 11 chapters, there's probably 7 of them that are basically the same in all three manuals. Bear with us as we go, but we're definitely going to get the information to you as we do the webinars. This week we're going to be looking at Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is basically an introduction to the FDOT software. It really covers most of our basics. You can contact me, or really most of us in our office, and if you have any questions about anything that we cover, you can definitely give us a call. All being said, let's get started. Chapter 1. The first thing that we want to take a look at is the FDOT SS4 folder, that when our software is installed onto your computer, there is a folder that gets put out there on your desktop. When you open up this folder, you'll notice, and I'm going to go ahead and change my view. There we go, make them a little bit bigger. You'll notice that there's a lot of icons in here. One of the things that I want to definitely bring to your attention is the F.SS4 icon that you'll find in this folder. It's very important when you're working in the FDOT workspace that you use this icon in order to open up MicroStation. If you're running Power Geopack, then the install, basically what it does is it goes through and it says, okay, what do you have registered and what is installed on your computer? And it looks for the versions of MicroStation, Geopack, or Power Geopack, and it will create you an icon for the supported versions of the Bentley software, so it opens up that version in the correct workspace. Okay, if you have MicroStation and Geopack Suite, you will find 2 icons in here. One will start with Geopack and one without. If you are looking at running some of the tools that we are going to be showing throughout this series, it's important to run with the Geopack icon. That way it activates Geopack and you can get to all of the tools that we're going to be taking a look at. Okay, what else do we have in this folder? We've got Clear Crash. Basically, if MicroStation locks up, it will close down all the sessions, and I do mean all, so if you are someone who opens up more than one session of MicroStation when you're working, if you use this icon, it basically runs a bat file and it will close everything down, every single session. So just know that it does that, but this is a very handy tool. MicroStation locks up, it closes MicroStation, shuts down Geopack, and then you can start fresh. There's other icons in here. Some of them are just, they're links. Others are to different tools that you can use within our workspace. One I'm going to be focusing on this morning is going to be create files. So, creating files. We have a tool, and you can open this inside or outside of MicroStation, as you just saw. Create File Project is the actual name of the tool up here. And what this does is it creates the DGN files that you need to be working in, and it makes sure that it is using the correct seed file, it's using the correct naming convention so that our QC software will work correctly, because our QC software is based on the first 6 letters in here, first characters within the file name. And that tells us what rule do we need to be looking at in order to check the elements that are in our files. So it's very important that you use this tool. I always do, because then I don't have to worry about making sure that I've grabbed the right seed file or anything else. In chapter 1, there is an exercise. Basically what we're doing is that we're going to go ahead and open up the create file. Go to the project settings, and I'm going to select an active project. I'm going to browse out, and I'm going to go up. I'm going to go to CE projects and select the project that I want. It's important that you stop at the root of the project directory, which is the project number here, until it's select. Okay. Once I've selected the active project, it's going to populate the project information here. It will automatically set the F.SS4 workspace for us. And then you have the option to select a control file. If you've never opened this up before, I already had, so that's why I had this set to roadway, but a lot of times when you open this, it'll be blank. So you need to use the arrow drop down to grab the roadway control file. All of the traffic plans, disciplines are included in the roadway control file. Once I've done that, then I go in here and I want to select which discipline of files that I need to create. So I'm going to go down here to signing and payment marking files. So from here, I can create my proposed design, and I can tell it to create, and it's going to tell me if it successfully created it or not. And you'll notice that it created it in my signing directory. Depending on my discipline that I select, it knows where it needs to put it within your project directory. At this point, you can go ahead and tell it to open the file, and it will open up the file. You could also go in and create more files. So I can go ahead and create my border file for sheets. I can create a key sheet. I can create my clipboard file. Just everything that I might need, I can go ahead and create it now, or I can come back later and open this tool up again and create them later. I'm just going to grab a couple of files that I know are in just about every single job. Those are ones that you're going to definitely need. Okay, something I want to bring attention to, and most of the ones, there are a few that we have out there that when you look in here, down here under action, you notice there's a key in. This key in only gets applied when I click on the open file button and I open that file. Most of them have the key in to set our plot scale, so that as soon as you open up the file, the set plot scale pops up. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this, I hope. The other thing is that sometimes these are set to something different. An example of that is an alignment file. An alignment file, when I create that in SS4, it's going to create all of the different models that I could use for the different scales for my alignment. Because my alignment file, I have the station and tick marks, as well as my PC, PT, curve data, that kind of information. That goes into our alignment file. our alignments are actually stored in the design file. So for actually any of these, signing, paint markings, lighting, or signals, basically I would need to reference in the DSGNRD, which is the roadways design file, where they have their alignments, reference that in, and that's where that information would come from. And then I get all the station tick marks that I need from the alignment file. So I'm just going to tell this OK. And the next thing I'm going to do is open up MicroStation. I'm going to use the SS4 icon. And it takes a second, especially the first time in the morning. When this finally gets open, what I want to go over next is when you open up MicroStation and looking at that first dialog box whenever you open up your session. Hey, what timing? There are 3 options down here in the lower right corner. Get my lefts and rights correct. When you open up using our icon, it will go ahead and set the user and the interface to the F.SS4 workspace so that you're getting the correct resources, etc. whenever you first come in. You're in our workspace. What it doesn't set is the project. Okay. Projects are created by clicking on New, typing in your project number, and then telling it OK. What that will do, if you've got everything set up in the right places, it creates what they call a PCF file. And that PCF file is what it looks for in order to populate this information. And it knows that this is the directory that I have my project in. So right now, notice that it's looking for this in this project's SS4 directory. This is the last file I happen to have been in. When I click on the other project here, but that's easy enough because this works out because I can actually explain to you what it's doing. So if I go to CE projects, that's my problem. My PCF file is in the wrong location. This is a project I copied. So if you get the data set, inside the data set there is a PCF file. And I got a fresh set of this data set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, actually I'll do it this way. I'm going to cut that and I'll put it in the projects directory. And paste. How it should up in my drop down, I don't know. Okay, there's another file if you create new that needs to be here that I don't have here. It's this one, just to show you what it does. As your project's template. And when you install, and my install was originally into my project directory, is that projects SS4 directory. So it put this project.template file in my projects directory for me. So let me go back over to MicroStation and just show you this. Okay, so now if I click on this, it's going to be obnoxious for me. Let's try new. And typically that would be the FIN number for your project. And notice that what it did is it created a file. But it created it in the project SS4, and that's what the problem is. I'm going to use a different project directory. So it created this project for me, and it's called test. So as soon as I use that PCF file, it's going to put me into that directory whenever I select it. I just wanted you guys to see that. Hopefully you guys understand how that works. You're asking me where I got the E folder from. You don't have to have the E. It can be set to just projects, or it's whatever your company decides that they want to use to put all of their projects in. It's important that the projects themselves are within that particular directory, whatever you want to call it. When you install the software, it asks you to go and put in where your project's directory is located. It sets a environment variable that then goes and looks into that particular directory when it's looking for your projects. So the E doesn't have to be there. And thank you guys. Apparently E means English, and it probably got started when we had English versus metric projects. So basically, you install the software. It should be looking to your projects directory. You can go to new, and it will create, using that project template file, it will create our project, and it has all of the directories that I need in my project directory. Okay, that's how I recommend that you create your projects, because it not only does it create my directory structure out there for me, but it also creates my PCF file. The PCF file is used by different tools and processes as you go through your design workflow for creating your plans. Signing and pavement markings, it's very important that when you open up a project that you go in and use this PCF file, because it sets a system variable for MicroStation that DrawSign uses in order to locate a custom cell library. Okay, so this is kind of critical that you guys grasp how this works, so that you can create this. If at some point you go through this at your desk and you're trying to figure out, okay, I'm not getting this to work, what can I do? Give one of us a call. Any of us in here should be able to help you, and we'd be more than happy to help you set this up so that you're working with everything set in place the way that you need it. I'm going to go back to the other directory for today. All right, so I'm going to go into signing, and here are all these files that I just created. So I'm going to open up my DSGN-SP file and tell it to open. And it's going to take us a second. And while it's doing that, is this how projects are made for FDOT versus producing projects in the network drive? The projects can be anywhere. They can be out on a server, they can be local, just as long as you point that variable when you're first installing the FDOT software, it can be set to anywhere. And the other one was asking where you can download the data set. Okay, I will show you that in just a second, because that kind of goes into the next topic here. And that is talking about the FDOT menu. So for the rest of the webinar, we're going to be talking about some resources and some basic MicroStation functions. A big resource that you guys have that is with our software is our FDOT menu. Okay, I can do lots of things with this. There are 4 menus that are standard that will be on every menu. If you see the standard cell apps, actions, and design apps, if you see these 4 on the right-hand side of your menu, you're in the structures workspace. Okay, so how can I fix that? Under standard, I can go to the FDOT menu configuration. It will bring up this dialog, and I have the standard menu, which typically we all call the roadway menu. It's more than just the roadway discipline. Traffic plans has a menu in here, geotechnical construction, traffic control. There's a lot of different menu options that I can turn on and off and configure it to however I need to work. Today I'm going to be looking at traffic plans. A lot of times when I set up my menu, I will have on roadway, but you don't have to. So whatever options I select is going to give me those menu options on my menu. Something important to know about selecting the different disciplines. When I select different ones, these options that are chosen, that information gets saved into one of our configuration files, and it sets up this particular workspace so that it knows I'm working in roadway and traffic plans. So it makes sure that I am seeing the levels that I need for roadway and traffic plans that I am seeing the features, and this is the critical part, the features that I need for roadway and traffic plans. Cell libraries, all that kind of stuff. It's all determined on which menu do I have open and which options do I have. These options are available under standard and structures. Okay, so if I'm working and for some reason I need some utility features and I don't see those utility features in anywhere, and you're going, well, how do I get them? Go back and look at your FDOT menu. What you may need to do is come back to here, tell it to include the utility features, and then click on the option to update my menu. And what that will do is it will set everything up like I need it. It will close MicroStation and basically just restart it so that it rereads with those settings that I just selected. It rereads all of our resources and those configurations variables and allows me to restart the session so that I get those resources that I asked for. We'll start back over here looking at the menu options under traffic plans. It's broken down by discipline, so I've got ITS, lighting, signals, and signing pavement markings. Under each of these different disciplines for the traffic plans, there is options for, at the minimum, the cell libraries, as well as the cell web pages. And for signals and signing and pavement markings, there's also extra options in here for any specialized applications that are simply for that discipline. So we have some signal applications, as well as there's some tools in here, the draw cell group by feature, draw sign, and pavement marking program. That's basically the design and computation manager. So I have extra information here that is specific to that discipline. Okay, so these are all resources and options, and it's a way for you to get to this information. Design apps and actions, these are where most of your tools are going to be used. Whatever it may be that you want to get into, create files, maybe you're looking at placing a sheet using Link Data Manager, whatever it may be, the information is here. There's a lot of custom tools that are sitting out here as well that you can go to. As we go through the different chapters and it gets into more of the actual design work, we'll be taking a closer look at a few of these. Another way to get to the cell libraries and web pages, as well as some cell tools. And then under standard, this is mostly links and it's resources to information to help you. Let me move this up just a tad. Okay, so here's the ECSO information, how to get a hold of us, our website, CAD manual. So like I said, there's just a lot of information here. Someone asked in one of their questions, how do I get to the data set? So I'm going to just go ahead and click on the ECSO website. It doesn't like Edge. Here is our, and actually this is brand new, our new website, and under resources there is the option for the training manuals, and under the training manuals you'll see all of the different manuals that we have out here. FDOT traffic plans. So the data set, just select either any of these. And the data set that I'm mostly going to be working from is price, signing, and pavement markings. But you can get to the data set from here. This FDOT SS3 data set, it's valid for getting started if you want to go ahead and download that. I'm still working from that data set. When we get everything updated for SS4, everything will get posted. I'm guessing that'll probably be sometime in November. Some other things that are in the manual, if you right click at any point across here, you'll get some extra options, and you can change the color. I typically like the purple. You can change the location, so I can move this up here out of my way, right click and tell it to save settings. Next time I open up MicroStation, then this is where my FDOT menu will reside. Next topic. Again, this is more resources for you guys. On the task menus, by default, when you load MicroStation and Geopack, the task menu gets loaded up over here on the left-hand side of the screen. I know a lot of people will either pin it so that it goes in, or they just completely get rid of it because I just don't like it. It took me a little bit to get used to the task menus, but I really like them, and in fact I hardly ever use my FDOT menu anymore. Most of what I need I can get over here between the new civil tools, but what I want to point out is that we have as a resource for you guys the FDOT Plans Development task menu, and it is set up in workflows, more or less. So if I'm working on a key sheet, here are tools that I can use to create a key sheet. Traffic plans. There is a task menu set up for traffic plans, and it's got commonly used signing and pavement marking plan tools. Then it has signalization tools, lighting tools, and ITS tools. And basically, any of these that you see the little, looks like the little magnifying glass, that's the cell web pages. And we've got icons in here for the different cell libraries. But some of the other tools is like getting into draw sign, guide signs. I can also come in here from these icons within the task menu. Oops. The next thing that we want to take a look at, and I'm going to just go ahead and drag my attributes toolbox down here. And I like putting that over there. It's talking about different MicroStation, and these are very simple, fundamental things that sometimes we take it for granted, those of us who have been working in this for a long time. But Chapter 1 does get into some basics about our workspace, how we have things set up. Okay, we work with level names, and our levels have been set up such that they have a meaning. Okay, we try to make the actual name make as much sense as we can. I mean, desilting pipes. Okay, so if I had a pipe to desilt, I'd use that level to signify that's a pipe that needed to be desilted. A ditch bottom. For signing and pavement markings, we have the pavement marking striping. So 6-inch yellow, 6-inch white with 1030 skip. Okay, so we have the different levels that are set up in here. We also have, here's an example of, you've got the name, and then you'll have an underscore and 2 letters over here. What in the world does that mean? Okay, the first letter is going to either be an E, a P, or a D. And that basically is the state of that particular element. Is it existing? Then it would be an E. Is it proposed? Then it would be a P. If it's a D, that's a drafting type element. It's not really, it's like text or a dimension line. It's not really, it's not existing or proposed. It's just part of what we need to draft. Okay. The second letter stands for the view. Okay. R is for profiles. X is cross sections. If you see an M, that's our 3D model. So plan is P, R, profile, X is cross section, and 3 is that 3D model. Again, if you guys have any questions on that, let us know. Okay, we also have set up in here, if you right click, we have level filters. Okay, you can turn these on and off using either from the actions menu, and this permanently turns these level filters on or off in your work session. Well, not permanently until you turn it on or off. You switch it back up again. I can come in here, and if I'm working in signing and payment markings, well, that's my DSGNSP. I can use this level filter so that instead of seeing everything, I see only those that would be related to my payment markings, and it makes my list a whole lot smaller. Okay, and so let's just say, you know, I even selected the black. Okay, whatever I needed to be working on, I could use that level and set it and start doing my thing. Okay, one thing that I don't know that a whole lot of people realize is that, okay, so DSG and SBM. If I click on this on my levels again, if you go all the way up to the top, there is an option that says filter. And if I open this, it brings up a recall filter. So if I wanted to switch between, say, my signing and payment marking levels, and let's just say some text levels, okay? To make it a whole lot easier for me to switch between the different ones, these are all text levels or text related, okay? So I've got the leader lines and then all my text, okay? And then I could go back and say I want to go back to my other filter, DSGNSP. It's a quick way to go back and forth. You can do it either way using this option, or you can also go to here. Most people can't stand the level filters and they turn them off. And because sometimes it's aggravating, because if you need something that's in a different filter, not necessarily whether it's in a reference or it happens to all of us. Those are just options that are available to you that you can use. So even if I turn all of my level filters off so that they're not there by default, if I want to use one, I still can. Okay, let me throw this back up here. And the next thing we want to talk about is civil features. I know a lot of the folks out there, you guys know what features are. And in a nutshell, it's another level of organization. Features allow us to take an object, say curb and gutter, and it's something that we use, but we show it in a lot of different views, and each of those views we have a different level. Features allows us to set that information along with some other information as well, different settings, say for like contours or triangles within viewing my DTMs. But in a nutshell, what it does is it allows us to say, okay, I'm viewing this curve in my plan view. It's going to show up as symbology. And then when I use different civil tools, I want to use that same feature, but I'm looking at it in my 3D model. How should that look? What levels should it use? That is all based on the exact same feature. And we've set all of that up for you. If you go to, I'm going to hit F11, you go to Project Explorer under Civil Standards, you'll see in here there's some libraries and there's some feature definitions. We have in here, and let's just say, because I have traffic plans loaded, then I have the traffic plans features loaded as well. And I can go in here and I can take a look at, let's just look at some of these features that are available to me. Okay, so it looks a lot like the DNC Manager, if you'll notice, and there's a reason for that. The difference is this is always going to be in alphabetical order. The DNC Manager is not. But if I wanted to go in and look and see, okay, I've got to place some stop bars, okay? Well, there's my stop bar. If feature, and we have that set up. And our features are for our linear elements within our design. If I go back up to tasks up here, they're used with our civil tools, okay? They are not used with the place microstation, just place line, general microstation tools. They are only used with the civil tools. It adds extra information and extra intelligence to that information that's out there in your design. For the traffic plans disciplines, features, they can be used, but I would like just to put out there a word of caution. There's some things that are really cool that you can do, like the roadway design guys, they have their edges of pavement drawn into their file. You can actually use the civil tools and use the features, set the 6-inch white so that it is, 6 inches from the edge of pavement, and it sets a rule out there for your elements. And then if the roadway guys decide to move their elements, your elements will move with it, okay? Word of caution is that depending on the way you set your file up, that can be a benefit to you. It can also be a hindrance. It can cause you issues depending on the rules. Simple 2-lane projects, that's probably would work really well. When you get into multi-lane divided roadways, there are times with it can cause some issues. So it's out there. I wanted you guys to be aware that yes, we do have features. All of our traffic plan features are set up using native style. And what that means is that, for example, if I go to the properties and I look at plan, my native style is set to the DNC item that I have out there in the DNC manager, okay? So when I use features, for the most part, there are some that do not, but for the most part, they're using the DNC manager attributes in order to set the symbology. It also places the geopack tags that I need so that I can then calculate my quantities. But like I said, as awesome as they are, use them cautiously. Think about them before you set your rules, because once those rules have set, there's times when you go to, for instance, all I want to do is modify a line. I want to move a line, and I can't. And I can't because there's a rule that says you have to follow this other line. And it's not apparent. So, like I said, just use them where you feel that it makes sense, but cautiously. So I'm going to move on to our next topic, that is textiles. Textiles are located under element textiles. Let me go ahead and let me close this other stuff. We have in here an array of different textiles that you can use. And we have some that are already set up to mask, basically create that box behind it so it masks anything behind it so your text stands out. We have several different text fonts, the TrueType fonts. So we have textiles set up for each of them. They are set up to follow our CAD manual, CAD standards. So I've got small, medium, and large textiles so that you have, and it's already got the textiles, it's got the font, it's got spacing, all of this information, and I'm just going to pull it up to advanced. Let me get this bigger so you can see it. There's a lot of things that I can set beforehand with a textile. Okay, so when I open up the place text dialog, and I'm going to go over to drawing and place text, I can set that up using a textile. So say I wanted to use f.small. It sets everything up for me. Okay, it sets my text height, width. If my annotation scale is turned on, then it's going to multiply that times my drawing scale, and then my text will be at the correct size for me if I want it to be small. So it sets a lot of settings in here depending on the textile. So it's definitely something to think about using. Like I said, we have set these up for you. Is it mandatory? No, of course not. But it's another resource for you guys to use. And that follows us into the next topic, which is the annotation scale. Annotation scale is a property of our models. Within our model dialog, when I look at properties, okay, I can propagate the annotation scale, and our line style scales are also set to annotation scale, okay? That being said, when I draw things, whether they're line styles or text, then it's going to put it to the scale that I have set active in that particular model, okay? If I change that scale of my model, then that's going to change. So I could go in here, I've got the set, and let's just say this is a test. The one thing it does not set for me, however, with text styles is the actual level. Let me just grab text label. So I set my level for my text, okay, and I place this in my file and look at the information, and you'll see that has a text height of 0.07, okay? I could change it there, but what I want to do is go into Settings, Drawing Scale, and you'll notice that my drawing scale is set at a 1:1. If I wanted this to be at a 1:50, my text just got much bigger. And if I look at the properties, it still says it's 0.07, but it's multiplied that times my drawing scale. Make sense? One of the cautions that I do have for using annotation scale, I recommend that it's an all or nothing thing. Line styles are going to be governed by the annotation scale. Text, however, depending on the tools that you use, whether you use a Geopack labeler or you're using the MicroStation text, the annotation may or may not be set. I don't recommend that you have a mix of text that's been set so that it goes up and down and changes with my scale versus text that has just been hard-coded. It's going to be 3.5 and that's it, okay? And the reason for that is when you're referencing, if my drawing scale, and depending on the reference settings, if I've referenced this file to another file, in this model it's set to a 50 scale, but in my other file, that model is set to 1, and I tell it I want to use the master file settings, well, then this text is going to come in teeny tiny, okay, because that's set by the drawing scale, okay? So if this is teeny tiny, but then I also have some other text that may be set to 3.5, well, the 3.5 is going to come in because it's not set with the scale. So you're going to have mix match. So be careful with the annotation scale. Definitely recommend that you do use it. Don't get me wrong. I just want to say be careful. Again, think about the text, and I know these are like, well, it's just text. Think about it because some of the simplest things of what we do can sometimes give us some of the biggest headaches because it's time consuming. You've got to go back and reset settings. You've got to replace the text, or you've got to go back and touch it all again. If you understand how it works to begin with, you can do it so that even if I do need to change 3/4 of the way through my project and I've got a project manager that says, okay, I want this to be at 40 scale, not 50, all you have to do is just change your drawing scale. Poof. Everything, all your text is fine. Last but not least are models. And let's take a look at the models. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the model dialog. Basically, way to think about this for somebody who's never like just starting in MicroStation. MicroStation has DGN files, and they are basically a container for models, and each model is a different type of space that I can use to draw in. There are many different types of models, so I'm going to go to the Create New, and I have got design models, drawing models, and sheet models. Currently, the FDOT workspace, we are using design models. We're not actively using the drawing and sheet models yet, but that's coming, I promise. So for right now, it's really, we use design models, and we typically do design models from seed. That way we get these settings in our seed files into our active file. If I do design from seed, you can see it's using this seed file, and it's using the default model of that seed file. And my seed file is setting whether it's 2D or 3D. I also have in here, if I set it to design, I have an option. I can say I wanted to create a 3D model within this file. I can do that, 2D or 3D, giving it the name of the model. Practice. This just makes it easier when you're looking at the reference dialog, so that the reference logical, and the name of the model, of course, that's important. You can set the annotation scale in here and leave this annotation scale set for your line style scale. And if you wanted to, you can place a model as a cell, and basically that's what our cell libraries are. They are design files with a whole bunch of models in them, and the models have this turned on so that when you look at it through the cell place cell dialog, I see them in a list available for me to place. Okay, and I can also create view groups. So I can make all of those options available or not, and then I'm just going to tell this OK. It's going to automatically give me the model in my list, and it's going to open up that model for me, and it is set to 50. Most of the files, I know all of our seed files except for the cross-section seed file, it only has a default model in it. There are a few of our files that through Create File, when you hit the Open button to open it, through that dialog, it'll create extra models for you. One of those is the alignment file, the other one is the DTM file. It will create a model for your triangles, and it'll also create another model for contours that you can set that information up for someone else to use. Depending on the way that you work, there will be times when you may want to create this extra model. It's good for placing extra line work. For instance, I've met some folks that when they do their pavement markings, they will go through the entire project and put construction lines in there. They'll be different colors, different weights, etc., but they use those with the pavement marking tools to make it faster for them to go back in and just grab those lines. I need 1030 skip here, and I need 2-4 on this line, and they set everything up. You can place all of that in another model, call it whatever you need to, and then in the default model, which is the one that we'll be using to place all of our line work for our plan sheets and doing all of our calculations, it would all be in my default model. But my construction work, I never have to worry about whether or not it shows up on my plan sheet. That's just one example of using these other models. We have them, they're available to you. I'm not saying go crazy with them, but understanding how they work and how that can be beneficial to you, it's kind of my goal here. This is what's available. Let's use them. The other thing is that also we have lots of views that we can turn on and off. Okay, use those views. It's the same model you're looking at, but you may be looking in a different place. I can place lines from, if it's a long distance, I can zoom in on one view, zoom in to the other end on another view, and place the line between the two views, and I'm not having to scroll in and out while I'm trying to use a tool. It's all right there. Click, click, I placed it. Okay. Those are just some of the things that are available in MicroStation. So I've touched on all of the topics. I didn't necessarily go through the the exercises exactly as they were in the manual, but I've touched on all of the topics that are covered in Chapter 1. Like I said, this was the introduction. I hope that for anyone out there who has not used MicroStation or you're just getting started, I'm hoping that it's helped, that we've given you basically some foundation work to getting started, how MicroStation set up, the resources that we have available for you out there in the FDOT resource workspace. There was a question that came in about text and using the scales. Basically, you've got some files that are annotative, others are not. When you try to mix and match those, it kind of gets a little tough. And as long as it's not mixed within the same file, it can usually be handled through the reference dialog. When I reference a file, and I go to attach something, and I'm just going to grab one, just attach. I'm going to hit open. A lot of times that can be handled through this global line style scale here. And it's also handled through the scale of my master. What scale is that versus what is the scale that's been used in my reference file? I've seen a lot where I want to bring that in, but I want to use this right here is going to tell it, okay, do I want to use the master file scale or do I want to use that reference file scale for whenever I attach it? And I get a lot of times if I change that from master to reference, it fixes a lot of that type of information. There is no real easy fix if you've, in fact, there isn't a fix really other than to go back and redo it. If you've got text in a file that you don't have annotation scale set with and the scale changes, you have to just basically go in there and change all that text. There's no easy fix for that. At least not that I'm aware of. Let me hit cancel here. Question, what is the difference between models and reference files? Okay, models are separate working spaces within the same DGN file. A reference, you're viewing and attaching to your current model and file another model to it that they're separate. For example, I've got this classwork and I have default. Okay, if I go to default and I have in here, this is text. This is in this particular model, okay? If I go to classwork, and let me close some of these, and I fit the view, there's nothing here, okay? So there's nothing that I can do with this. I can, if I wanted to see what's in there, I can go in through my reference dialog and reference the default model. It's basically, I'm always referencing models to models. Okay, so models is that small container with the work in it that I've put there that's within a DGN. Referencing, or my references, is where I'm basically looking at, but not changing, but I'm just looking at something else. It's like if I'm drafting and you've got all the different layers, you may have the old drafting, and so I have drawn all of the electrical on one sheet, and then I have another layer in there, another sheet that may have the architectural, all of the walls, and then I've got another one that's got plumbing. The way they used to do it, you could actually, it's really thin paper, you can put all of that on top of each other and you get the whole picture. Each one of these sheets would be basically talking about, and that information that I've drawn on there, that would be what's in a model. And taking all of them and seeing them at the same time, that's where I'm referencing them all together so you get the whole picture. Hopefully that helps the difference between models and references. Last but not least, question about, is this series specifically for MicroStation, currently using Civil 3D? The answer to that is yes, I'm going to be covering everything in MicroStation. However, some of the information that's in here, as far as we talk about design, DNC Manager. DNC Manager, they have got some of the basic concepts of how things are set up and put together. Draw sign, DNC Manager, guide signs, auto turn. Those are all things that, yes, I'll be showing it in MicroStation, but it has its complement tools, especially Draw Sign. Basically, it's the same thing in both platforms. It was rewritten so it had the same functionality for us in both environments. Entity Manager is the same as DNC. Basically, it functions a little differently, but it's going to be set up the same exact way because they basically use my DNC Manager database, run it through a program, and it spits out this other database that Entity Manager uses. So you can probably get some information out of this series, but that's up to you. I hope that everyone has gotten something out of this webinar. Like I said, this was an introduction. It was a lot of the basics so that everyone has a good understanding of what we are going to be looking at, some of the fundamentals. It's a foundation. So as we go, you're going to notice that there's going to be exercises that are going to have multiple ways of doing things, done that way for a purpose. We try to always go with the most efficient way to do things, but depending on your comfort zone, your understanding of things, everyone is different. And I may be able to use one tool and spit something out really, really fast, okay? But there's going to be somebody else who is more efficient with a different tool. So we try to give you the different ways of doing it, even if it may sound really basic, especially for those of us that have been doing it for 20 years. I'm still learning all the time. This was like first of 10 weeks. Have a great week, and I will talk to you again next week with Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is on key sheets. Y'all have a great day, great rest of your week.